for me, fit back in like a glove once he got back to Vegas. I think he has played his best hockey here. He surpassed my expectations when he got here last year. I thought played extremely well, had a really good playoff. Has a chemistry with William Karlsson that you have seen for many years. I think that we really are a better team with Riley. The other part of it with Riley is the leadership, and that's something that Riley really brings to the organization. He was an alternate captain for many years before he was traded, and I think that he's got such a level of respect from teammates that he really adds to our organization in that way. And in the case of Brandon Saad, it was we acquired him coming off of a contract termination with St. Louis that he was involved in the decision. And if you remember when we brought him in last year, he had other opportunities to go different places and wanted to go where he thought he could win. And that was exactly why he wanted to stay in Vegas. He had really good chemistry with Thomas Hertl. They really enjoyed playing together. I thought that Thomas, between Brandon Saad and Pavel Dorofeyev, was a really good line for us. It hurt us in the playoffs when that line got broke up, first through injury to Dorofeyev, and then later in round two, the injury to Brandon Saad. So those are really important players, really good signings for our team, and they'll fill two really important chairs for our team. In addition, during the year, as we've talked about different times, we were able to sign Shea Theodore, Braden McNabb, Brett Howden, Keegan Colasar, and Aiden Hill. And when you turn your TV on today and watch the free agency signings, we're glad not to be in that pool of players today. I think that the additional money available to teams with salary cap growth and the lack of players in free agency has really led to some contracts that have been very high, and really makes us appreciate that we've got these players under contract that I just mentioned. We made two trades. We first traded Nick Hague to Nashville for Colton Sissons and Jeremy Lauzon. Colton Sissons, just a little bit about each player. Colton's a 31-year-old right shot center. He's one of the best face-off men in the NHL. He's an elite penalty killer. He is very well defined and plays a very hard, direct style. We believe he's a player that you can win with and has those attributes. He's been a leader on the teams that he's played with. He's only ever been a Nashville Predator for 11 years. He was a captain of his team in junior. He's a captain of his team in the American League. And I think a guy that will really help our team. Jeremy Lauzon is a 28-year-old defenseman that's played, I think, 5 National Hockey League seasons after starting in the American League. Again, a very well-defined player, one of the most physical defensemen in the National Hockey League, hard to play against, can take matchups, a lot of defensive zone starts for him in his time in Nashville, a player that Bruce had history with from Boston, and I think that he'll really bring that ingredient to our defense. In Nick Hague, a defenseman that we drafted, developed, a real success story for our development people. Will Nickel, our strength and conditioning staff here in Vegas. Most importantly, credit to Nick Hague for becoming a really good NHL defenseman. And for the people in this room, you would have first seen Nick at his first development camp, and just the rawness, the size, the length, the work he needed to do on his skating, and he just continued to get better and better. He's 6'6", 245 pounds. He's a good NHL player. He was an important player on our Stanley Cup team. I thought that he, along with Zach Whitecloud, gave us a great pair on defense during that time. And with our team, it's hard for him to move up on the defense. So when you get to mixing into the equation the cost of players and where they are in your lineup, that was part of the motivation where this trade was made. I hope great things for Nick Hague. I think he's an unbelievable person, really Happy for him to get the contract that he got in Nashville. I hope he does great. I hope he does really well there. The next trade that we made Friday night, shortly after the draft began, we made a trade with Toronto where we traded Nick Waugh to Toronto for them to sign and trade Mitch Marner to the Vegas Golden Knights if we could come to an agreement with his representative. We were able to do that over the course of a few days. It took a couple of days for the NHL to process the contract, and then there's some salary cap logistics between Toronto and ourselves that delayed the announcement of it a little bit, but here we are today with the announcement coming out this morning. We wanted to do a sign and trade with Toronto so that we could get the 8th year on the contract. The only team that can give the player the 8th year is the team that he's on. So for us, the 8th year really helped us in terms of what the AAV might be for his contract. We signed him to an 8-year contract at $12 million, which is $96 million. And if it was a 7-year contract to get to $96 million, you've got an AAV of 13.7. That really impacts our ability to take the player onto our team. And one of the things that's important for us with every signing that we make, with every decision that we make, it's about building a team that can win the Stanley Cup. So you have to be able to have people in all roles and all positions in your lineup to be able to win. The other reason that we wanted to do a trade in advance of July 1 is to avoid July 1. With the cap space available to teams, when you look around the NHL, there's some teams that have $20 million of cap space. We didn't want to be in a position where it's July 1, we're making a presentation, 3 or 4 other teams are making a presentation. You never know who can come out of nowhere to win the day in a situation like that. So for us, Nick Waugh is a player we really valued, but at the same time, we're that close to potentially having control of the ability to add a tremendous NHL player to our organization. It was a decision that we felt was important and necessary to make. And for us, with respect to Nick Waugh, again, a player that we traded for as a young player, really developed well in our organization. Good playoff player, move up and down a lineup. A lot of regard for Nick as a person. Again, a guy we won a Stanley Cup with, so those are connections that last for you a lifetime. The situation with Nick was our 4th-line center, and we always felt Nick gave us great competitive advantage as a 4th-line center. But when you look at Eichel, Carlson, Hurdle ahead of him, we almost looked at it as a little bit of a luxury. We wanted to improve our team on the wings. That's one of the things that we had talked about coming out of the season, that we wanted to try and improve the offense from our wingers if that was a possibility for us. Certainly Mitch Marner does all of that. So as I said with Nick Hague, I hope Nick Waugh goes to Toronto and plays fantastic hockey. I think he'd be a really good player there. I think Nick Waugh is a 3rd-line center on almost any team in the NHL. That's what I think his abilities and his upside are with an increased opportunity on a new team. With Mitch Marner, we're getting one of the best forwards in the National Hockey League. Elite playmaker, tremendous passer. Over his past 4 seasons, he's averaged 30 goals and 100 points, 102 points this past year. Dynamic. Our fans will love this player. He really adds to our team. He adds to our offense. It gives us another, F1 star at the forward position, which we really feel is important. I think that it improves our team tremendously. That was, with respect to Mitch, we've had discussions with Toronto, going back a long time, where we would have been interested in acquiring Mitch Marner. We had discussions at the trade deadline that were initiated by Toronto, where they were trying to do a trade that involved another team. We weren't able to make it happen. When Mitch indicated, or it appeared that Mitch would be going to free agency, he was our target. He was the player that we wanted. And again, tying into why would you do that trade in advance? We wanted to eliminate other teams. We wanted to be able to create a one-on-one relationship with his representatives in terms of trying to do a contract, and that's how the deal came together. So it's been a busy month. There's a lot that goes on in the month of June in the NHL. A lot of teams really trying to reshape rosters, add to rosters, more so than the last handful of years at least. More teams that are trying to get better, more teams that are trying to win, not a lot of full-out sellers, which led to a lot of discussions with teams where they wanted to offer futures in deals. Teams wanted to make their team better, but with futures, because some of those teams that were trying to get better have been collecting futures over the past, however many years. And in our case, we traded two good players. That allowed us to bring in the three players that we brought in. So it's been productive. We're really pleased with how things have played out, and beginning with Brandon Saad and Riley Smith, who we're very happy to have back in our lineup. Colton Sissons, Jeremy Lauzon, and then of course here just recently Mitch Marner. So that's those are my opening comments. I've covered a lot there. I'm sure there's questions that still are out there. So let's open it up for questions.
Kelly, you touched on wanting to get the 8th year for Mitch. There were reports beforehand that he was probably looking for a shorter-term deal. Is there anything you can walk us through as to maybe how those negotiations panned out and maybe what changed in the course of that?
Well, I won't get into the negotiations, Danny, but I will say, I guess I will get into the negotiations. That wasn't true. It just wasn't true. It just, on that long list of things that have gone on the last month that had absolutely that much credibility, it's shameful, to be honest, that I've got to phone William Karlsson and say, Carly, I'm sorry you got to go through this shit. You're not for trade. Thomas, relax. You're not for trade. That's ridiculous. So this would just be, I guess, more of the same. That wasn't, we did the trade because we wanted the 8th year. They wanted the 8th year. That's as deep as I'll ever go on negotiations with you, Danny. Okay.
Questions for Kelly? Ron and Jesse.
A question about Alex Pietrangelo. Do you
Yes.
see his long-term IR? Do you see him, the next step for him being there on long-term IR?
Yeah, Alex is on long-term LTR now.
Could that last for? He's got 2 seasons left on his contract. Conceivably, could that last for 2 seasons?
For me, it's unlikely that he'll play again.
Okay, so it's he'll still get paid.
Yes.
For the 17 plus. Okay.
Yeah. His contract is honored. He's unable to play.
All right. And it doesn't count against the cap. Do I have that correct?
Correct.
That would not count against the cap.
That's
okay.
correct.
I know you mentioned that you were happy to not be signing a bunch of players today, but do you feel like you're pretty settled in your roster, and specifically behind Aiden Hill in net, do you feel comfortable with Akira Schmidt there as the number 2 guy?
I think that you never close the books on trying to make your team better. I think we're really comfortable that we're at where we're at now. We sit here on July 1st. I like the makeup of our roster pretty well. I think that we've got good depth. We've got high-end players. We've got I think on paper a good team. And obviously when you get going with the season, that'll be those will be things that you look at. We'll continue to listen during the off season. The off season is generally quieter in the NHL when you get through free agency, and maybe that 4 or 5 days after it can go a little bit quieter. And yet when we traded for Jack Eichel in November 3rd or 4th, I believe, when we completed the trade with Buffalo, our first conversations were in August. So you never know. You keep you try and stay in tune with what type of opportunities might be out there, and obviously then it's at what cost, and are you interested?
So Nick and Steve.
Well, Kelly, the talent is undeniable, but what do you think makes Mitch Marner a Golden Knight with his makeup, his personality, what he can bring to Vegas?
I've talked with Mitch, on a couple of times before he got to town. You will see here shortly. He is so excited to be part of our organization. He will likely speak to the fact that he's had all kinds of conversations with Ryan Reeves, with Max Pacioretty, with guys that know what this organization is about. I think that he's had a tremendous NHL career. This is going to be, just a really, the perfect time to make this change. And he knows, of course, our players that were part of the Four Nations on the Canadian team, which was helpful in terms of familiar faces and that type of thing. And it'll be easy to see how excited he is when you guys have a chance to talk to him here shortly.
Kelly, to that end, Bruce is having coached Mitch during Four Nations. How much did that factor in the decision to continue the pursuit and ultimately trade for him?
It didn't. It didn't. Mitch Marner's an elite player. It's great that they know each other because they have a relationship, but if our coach hadn't coached Mitch Marner at the Four Nations, we would have been every bit as interested in Mitch as what we were.
Hey, Kelly, you guys have two of the more prolific offensive players now on the same roster of the last several seasons in Jack and Mitch. How do you see them kind of fitting together and bringing the best out of each other?
Well, somebody's going to have to shoot, right? Somebody's going to have to shoot. And, and there's, I don't know that they'll play together. I mean, those are going to be decisions that Bruce makes. You jog my memory when you asked the question, because I also want to say about Mitch Marner, he's one of the best defensive players in the NHL. He's one of the top time on ice players in terms of penalty kill. He's a threat, shorthanded, and like Jack, like Mark Stone, like William Karlsson, these guys are tremendous two-way players. So there's no cheating for offense in Mitch's game. His play without the puck, his anticipation, his ability to knock pucks down, it's just an elite, God-given skill that he has. But he's also a very responsible two-way player, and that's what Bruce wants in a team. That's what our team has always been here in Vegas since the outset, and he'll fit into that nicely.
Willie and Danny.
Kelly, you just talked about Mitch's excitement and talking to him and joining this roster. You talk about him being an elite player, but I think we're going into year 9 of saying the exact same thing with you and George, your mindset of character and bringing in what they are off the ice as well. He's got a young family. How much did that play into and that impressed you in terms of the character off the ice?
Well, I worked with Mitch myself as well with a World Junior many years ago. I've followed his career and you know about players, right? And I think we also have the ability here to surround any player with really good players. Those are things that have been brought to our organization by some people that aren't even in our organization anymore, but are passed down. And we always say about our culture, don't let it slip. Don't let it slip. It takes a long time to build a great culture, and you can lose it in a hurry. So I think that our guys, really perpetuate that. I think he's going to, fit into that and flourish. I really believe he will.
With Alex now out, are you content with the guys that you have on the right side of the blue line, or do you anticipate maybe making another move to kind of address that side?
I'm satisfied with where we are, Danny. We'll see. I had felt we wanted to carry 7 defensemen as opposed to 8. I think that cap-wise, lineup-wise, we felt was better. I like Ben Hutton as a player with an 8-man rotation. Ben never got in last year, hardly at all. Caden Korzak was a number 7 defenseman, and even though he sat out a lot of games in a row at one stretch in the season, he still played 40. And I think the obvious candidate for more responsibility is Caden Korzak. He's going to be an every night player that we are really confident can be. I know it was one of the things Alex brought up in conversations that I had with him that's what he thinks has to happen. He thinks he's ready to be a really good NHL player for a long time. So do we. I think he's really matured nicely. It's a little bit more responsibility for different guys. So Zach Whitecloud is gonna move up our lineup, and I think he's more than ready for that. I believe that he can do that. So we talked about this last year with Pavel Dorofeyev. Sometimes you need that opportunity to take a step too, right? You have to be ready for it when the opportunity comes, or you don't get to keep it. But there's a little more opportunity back there for some guys that I think will step into it.
You mentioned that the team was interested in Marner at last year's trade deadline, and you also want to address the wings. But is there any way that you saw the postseason this past season play out that made you want to even maybe aggressively pursue Marner even more? Just how the team lost to the Oilers?
We would have pursued Mitch Marner if we won the Stanley Cup. Like he's a world-class talent. He's one of the best forwards in the NHL. So that would have remained the case. And we put a lot of stock in playoffs, and I think that there's some things we want to change. Maybe somewhat subtly, maybe not even that noticeable to a fan, but we're not going to go away from a lot of the things that worked really well for us last year. We had 50 wins, we had 112 points or whatever it was, and I said at media availability at the end of the year that a lot of things have to go right to win. There was enough things that didn't go right that didn't let us get past Edmonton. We played an elimination game without Mark Stone. Well, if Mark Stone wasn't on our team, that would be a problem. Well, he is on our team, but he wasn't available to play that night. Brandon Saad sat out that night. I mentioned, sort of what that did to the chemistry on the hurdle line. There's just like everything has to go the right way, and it didn't. So that's on us. But I don't think that, I like what we've done here so far. I think with. I like the two players in Lauzon and Sissons that we traded for in their roles. The things that they do well, I think, are going to be nice additions to our team. And then obviously, just the offensive, play and offense that'll be created because of Marner, along with, we've got some really good players. Last year we didn't have Riley Smith to start the year. We didn't have Brandon Saad to start the year. Pavel Dorofeyev. No one knew he was going to be able to produce like he did. So those are all, it takes time. You keep evaluating it, and that's how you build your team.
Last couple of questions. We'll go Ed, then Vince.
Kelly, you talked about Mitch flourishing here. How much do you think that has to do with maybe not being under the pressure, the spotlight of where he comes from, much like Jack maybe?
Well, we have lots of pressure here, Ed. We internally have pressure on our team. We want to win. Our guys put pressure on themselves as much as players in any other team. I think that Toronto is a mega market. It's a huge market, so there's pressure there. He's a local boy. He's I don't have it in front of me, but he's the top time on ice, top scoring. He's led every category for the Maple Leafs. In the playoffs, they haven't had the success that they wanted. But you know what? And I only just briefly touched on it. It's our job as managers to make sure our team is good enough to win. That's our job as managers, and I think if we do that, I think that that allows you to get contributions from a lot of different people. And Toronto's team was built a little bit differently through those years, and not to speak to how they do their business, but they were really victimized by the flat cap. They made the decisions that they made on the players that they made them on, and with you can see now with cap growth. I mean, like you're just amazed that geez, this guy got that. Well, when the cap is growing, those contracts would have been a smaller percentage of the cap as time went on. So they walked right into the flat cap, and it's, the the phase we've come through with the flat cap, it almost becomes your DNA. Like it just you just are so careful with your dollars. You're so cautious, proactive to make sure your cap is in the position where it needs to be, and all of those kind of things. Because we're aggressive with our salary cap. That's how we do business, and I think it's led us to a lot of good outcomes by doing it that way. But we'll surround Mitch with a good team, and if we win, we'll win as a team. If we lose, we'll lose as a team. That's what I would tell you.
Last one for Kelly.
Kelly, just going back on Colton Sissons a little bit, I'm curious, when did you identify that he might be a possibility? And in terms of Nick Waugh, you talked about the luxury and maybe him filling that position. And do you see him as one of those guys that when the game gets tight, he's one of those guys that can elevate the squad?
Well, Colton's a player that we've had regard for a while. His name was in discussions at the trade deadline when we were looking to improve our team. I think we watched him 57 times. He played a lot of wing this year. He's a natural center. That's where he'll play for us. And again, I don't want to oversell Colton Sissons, but I don't want to undersell him. He's very defined in what he is, and I think he's very good at that. And when you're looking to change the identity of your fourth line a little bit and get a little more forecheck out of that line, because our top three lines are going to be puck possession all day long. That's just the way they play. That's how they need to play well. But you'd like to have that identity a little bit from that fourth line, and look no further than the year we won. It's Will Carrier, Nick Waugh, Keegan Colasar, and they brought that identity, right? So Colton, I think, will line up with what we want that line to look like. Really good on face-offs, right-handed, really good on face-offs, and when you start the penalty kill, I can't remember what the numbers are or whatever, but I think 80% of NHL teams start the face-off with a left-handed centerman on the strong side. So you're going in to start every penalty killer with your centerman on his weak side. Colton Sissons is very, very good at that. He's very good at that. So things like that matter to Bruce Cassidy. They matter to a team, and I use the phrase when I describe Colton. I would also use the phrase when I describe Jeremy Lauzon. I think they're guys you can win with. That's how I would describe them. So, Mitch Marner's a totally different level of player and all of those things. But if you're building a team that's trying to win, you need all chairs filled and everybody having a role that's contributing.
Thank you, Kelly.
And he's got a 2-month-old son, Miles, and his mom and dad. Ladies and gentlemen, Mitch Marner.
Then we'll get you turn it around. Jersey perfect. Then Mitch, you want to throw it on real quick for one more?
Welcome to the Golden Knights.
Okay, I'll let you do your media thing. Thank you. Mitch is like our whole Sounds good. And then guys, we'll go straight to questions for Mitch. We'll start here with thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You're good, Dan. Good.
All right. Mitch, welcome to Vegas, first of all.
Thank you.
There were reports that you were probably looking at taking visits with other teams. What ultimately led to Vegas being the team you wanted to choose?
Well, I mean, obviously the winning regimen they've put up through the last 5 years, of really since they've been in the league. Got such a competitive team every year, got such good players here. The living arrangements from talking to Pacioretty and Revo just through the last couple weeks, it seemed like everything was a pretty good fit for my wife and I and our new son. And, the winning aspect of this team really helped and everything as well. And, the great players they have here. So, lucky enough, it all worked out. And, this is where we wanted to be.
Mitch, how you doing? Willie Ramirez with the Associated Press. Kelly had just said that there's always pressure, there's always an expectation. Ever since his team's come into the league, right? Mm-hmm. There's been a winning culture, as you've seen. You come from a city and an organization where there's been pressure for decades. Mm-hmm. What's attractive most to the challenge of going from there to here and running right into this challenge with this roster, this locker room, this culture?
That's a good question. I mean, you want to be in a place where you want to win. That's the whole goal of why we do this. You want to hoist that Stanley Cup. This team has shown that they can do it. I'm lucky enough to now hopefully bring another piece in to help bring it back here. I think we put the most pressure on ourselves as hockey players. That's how we play the game. We want to win every single night. You want to win every battle. You want to win anything you can all the time. Like I said before, this team has, since it's entered the league, really pushed to, push the boundaries and be that winning team. And, that's where I want to be. I want to be in a winning situation. I've been lucky enough that I've been on some very good teams that just, haven't. Sorry, everyone. That's my father, eh? New. Welcome to Vegas, eh? Yeah. I've been very lucky to be with some very good teams and very good players. And, unfortunately enough, we just we weren't able to get over the hump, and that sucks a lot, to be honest. But you got to look past things. We got a new great opportunity here with an unbelievable team, like I've spoken about the last, couple minutes, and we're very fortunate and lucky enough to be here.
Mitch, welcome to Vegas. Your thoughts on Vegas as a city, experiences that you've had being here in Vegas and playing against the Knights in T-Mobile Arena.
Yeah.
What's it like for you?
Playing in this arena-wise, it's all time. It really is. It's crazy. Just the vibe you get as soon as you walk into the arena, to warm-ups, to the starting of the game. We as athletes never really get to see the start of a hockey game of like how they kind of get the fans into it and how they bring the fans off the seat onto their feet, get going. That was my parents, lucky enough, got to see it the last couple of years we've come here. It's a pretty good destination spot for to come watch a hockey game, and just seeing the videos from their phones, seeing the love that the fans give when you come out on the ice, it's pretty special. So, the city itself, obviously everyone just thinks of it as the Strip, and there's so much more to it. Like I said, I got lucky enough to talk to Revo and Pat Reddy quite a bit just about everything off the Strip, living-wise, the schooling-wise, just how tight-knit the communities are, the privacy-wise in that aspect too. So, yeah, a lot of things just checked our box. My wife and I like to go out and, enjoy ourselves and have nice dinners and stuff like that, and we can still do that going down to the Strip, or you can do that in the Summerlin area, and that's something that really dragged our attention.
Hi, Mitch. Steve Karp with the Sporting Tribune. You got a chance to play for Bruce Cassidy at Four Nations. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about what that relationship was like and what it will be like in your mind going forward, playing for him full-time as a head coach?
Yeah. Well, before that, obviously, I played against him a lot, being Toronto-Boston rivalry thing. Played a couple playoff series against him, and he's always been a high-end coach. Getting to know him very personally-wise at the Four Nations was awesome. Just his help with the power play throughout that tournament was amazing. With his power play that was going on here the whole year, of how deadly they were really all year. First in the NHL, which is very impressive. And, he's just a very down-to-earth guy, talks very calmly, listens to your points, listens to what you got to say too. And, that's conversations you want to have with your coach. You want to be able to, express yourself and let him express himself and, find where you can help each other out in great areas. So, looking forward to, playing under him. And it's been great success before.
Hi, Mitch. Jesse Granger at The Athletic. You don't hit free agency often as a hockey player. What were the conversations like between you and your agent and to turn down that opportunity to sign this deal ultimately? It was a wild one. It was unexpected in a way. We didn't know what was really going to happen. I expressed to my agent that, we had a couple teams that we really liked and really wanted to look forward to meeting with and talking with. And, I thought through just speculation, stuff might really start falling around draft night. I think that's when stuff kind of happens, especially with sign and trade stuff. So we were kind of just hanging out at home, not knowing really what was going to happen. With a bit of speculation, maybe something might happen eventually. And then, I don't know. My agent called. We kind of got the word on Friday night that something might be going down with Vegas and Toronto, and how that feels to my wife and I. And like I said, this was a spot that was very high on my list, and we wanted to come here and kind of
went back to my agent and said, I'm open to doing this if we can find a way to do it. And, a couple hours later, Kelly called me and said that, we got a deal going on. So was very happy, very fortunate. And, I don't know, we thought about going to free agency, but this is the place we want to be. We didn't want to lose that opportunity, and we want to join this hockey team.
Kelly had said that they've kind of been interested in you for a while, that there was potentially something around the trade deadline, 3-team deal. I don't know exactly what it was, but when was the first time it actually got on your radar that it was possible that you were going to come here, and when's the first time you actually had real discussions with anyone, family, anyone around you that's like, should we go to Vegas?
Yeah. Well, I guess that really kind of hit trade deadline day. I think it was the day. I think that the day prior we got offered a trade to go somewhere else. My wife was 7 or 8 months pregnant at the time, and we weren't really going to go somewhere that was maybe just going to be a short stint. If we were going somewhere, we were going to sign for an extension, raise our child there and grow up there. And then we kind of heard that Vegas might be interested in doing a 3-way deal. From what it sounded like, not much really kind of happened going forward process-wise with trying to work the 3 teams. But that was kind of when we started really talking, saying, well, it sounds like Vegas got interest in us. We have interest in them. That's kind of when we started sitting there in a while, trying to think of it in a way, but not overthink it, I guess. At that time, I was still very committed to playing Toronto hockey. Wanted to focus on just being there and finishing a job there. So I'd say really when kind of the season ended, after the next 2 or 3 weeks, I sat down with my whole family, our agent, and went through kind of the discussions of what stuff could look like, how we can figure this out. And luckily enough, Vegas came with, the deal on Friday. And like I said, we talked about that. This was our first destination we would like to go to. And, it worked out very well.
Hey, Mitch. Vince Sapienza here with Fox 5. Just curious, I'm sure it's been a wild little bit for you. You talked about talking to Revo and Max about what about the current guys on the roster? How many have reached out, or and the relationships you've had, whether it be Team Canada or just growing up through your years?
Yeah. I reached out, or Stoney reached out to me Saturday morning, I want to say it was, Friday night, Saturday morning. And then Jack texted me, I think it was Saturday morning. And then a couple other guys just kind of texted me throughout the last couple days. Got thrown in the group chat today, just kind of said hello to everyone and saw if anyone was really around town here. And, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, we're just trying to find out living style now, living-wise, where we're going to try to, find our home and stay for, the 8 years. And, it's been great. They've been welcoming us with open arms. The wives have been extremely helpful to my wife. And we're extremely grateful for that. And, it's a team that has a lot of star power. But getting to meet Theodore, Hill, and Stoney this year at the Four Nations was awesome as well. Just kind of, not just for myself, my wife's side of things, just talking to them about the living style and everything like that as well. And for my side of things, wasn't too much real talk about coming to Vegas at that time. It was more so just, trying to win a gold at the Four Nations with those guys and, just playing beside them, getting to know them very well. They were very committed, hardworking guys that, whatever they got put in front of that they needed to win, they just did what they had to do. And that was pretty eye-opening and special.
Mitch, for a lot of the guys that have been here, well, the 3 guys have been here for the whole time, and then other guys that we've seen start families here, they've all commented on how it's different. The mindset changes. You go from being a superstar hockey player to a family man, and all of a sudden your priorities change. Yeah. You talked about the community, talking to Revo and Max, and how that became important. Can you just talk about the progression of being a young superstar in Toronto, growing into your career, and now how the priorities have changed to also including being a family man and a brand new father?
Yeah, it's been eye-opening in a way. To be honest, it's been really special. Being there for my son's birth and, just seeing how strong and, amazing a woman's body and my wife was in that moment was it was tough to explain. I mean, if you have a child, I think it's tough to explain that kind of moment. But, quickly things change. I mean, we were going into the second round, I believe, right before we had Miles. And, hockey's such a priority in all of our minds. But as soon as I kind of got home from the rink immediately after games or anything like that, I was trying to figure out how I can help my wife with my son and try to, regardless, staying up late some nights trying to take care of them or trying to help my wife just get a couple hours of sleep between times of feeding. It really changes your mind quickly. And I was fortunate enough to have a lot of guys on Toronto that had children that gave me the rundown multiple weeks beforehand. But as a kid, I guess in a way, or as a person, you just sometimes think, it's not, it'll be different or something, and then it happens, and you're thankful for the lessons that other people taught you throughout the way. And but your mind definitely changes to being a family man than just a hockey player.
Hey, Mitch, it's Nick Walters with Channel 13. First of all, congrats. Many hockey fans' reaction when they first saw the news was Mitch Marner's going to get to play with Jack Eichel. I know you played on Team Canada. He was on Team USA. But what do you admire about his game, and how do you think you guys could really pair on the ice?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. That's obviously an exceptional player, a guy that really moves well up and down the ice. Both ends of his ice, very responsible. At the same time, he's got a deadly shot with his vision and playmaking style as well. So, I'm very excited to start working with him and try to, figure out the chemistry quickly and get that rolling. I've talked to a couple guys that have been his teammates that have said just unbelievable things about him as a human. So I'm very much looking forward to being in the locker room with him, starting to learn, just tendencies of where he likes to be on the ice, where I like to be on the ice, how we can, work it best, and try to figure out ways to, score some hockey goals and win some hockey games.
Take a few more for Mitch. Next we'll go to Brian.
How you doing? Congratulations, Brian Salmon, NBC Las Vegas. First would be when Vegas, it's been a long time now, not a new team, but when Vegas first came, you're from Toronto. Obviously, hockey's big in Toronto. What were your first thoughts on, goodness gracious, to have a team in Las Vegas? And for that point, Vegas winning a Stanley Cup. It's been a long time since a team in Canada's won one. Your thoughts on that, and could you ever imagine that you would actually be playing for this team in Las Vegas?
I think my whole mindset the whole time I was in Toronto was it was really tough to leave Toronto, to be honest. I didn't ever think it maybe come to that day. When Vegas first came into the league, I think it was a shock. Like, everyone thought it's going to be a team that is going to be competitive, but a lot of teams are going to come in here and maybe do some stupid stuff the night before hockey games. I think that's what everyone's thought was, and some thoughts. So, and then kind of just realized quickly there that as soon as this team was made, that they were guys that were willing to work and battle, and it didn't matter of the names on the team. They were just there to do their job, and they ended up winning a lot of hockey games. And then, with Kelly and Bill and McPhee, sorry, thank you. I'm still new. Let me try to get. I'm trying to get all everyone's names down. But they started just really making a winning atmosphere here, and really pushing. Just keep making this team better every single year. And last year in Toronto, or 2 years ago, really kind of stuff. We didn't win, obviously. We didn't do what we wanted to do. Stuff started kind of going. A little north, a little south. We didn't know what was going to happen. A lot of trade rumors all last summer. Didn't know what was going to happen in that regard either. And, as soon as the year started up, we're ready to commit and play hockey and, see what would happen. But, at the same time, we're willing to take it to the distance and, kind of told Toronto that that was our plan. And, I was so grateful to play there for 9 years. I said it at my end of the year interview there that I took a risky pick on a small kid from Toronto that, was forever grateful to be able to wear a Maple Leaf jersey and forever to be able to play in front of, some of the greats that ever wore that jersey. But just now as being a family man, a father, we thought our time was, ready to look somewhere else and find a new home and find a new place to grow our family. And like I said, I'm so grateful to be here and so happy to be a part of this team.
Hi, Mitch. Welcome to Vegas. I guess being able to go back to wearing 93, maybe the significance of that number and how excited you'd be able to put back on 93 after all those years in 16.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. The first actually kind of time I saw it on someone was on my son. So me and my wife in our hotel room put it on him, and it was just a really special moment. It's a jersey that I wore with the London Knights for the 3 years there and had great success with it and really enjoyed the number. And my dad was a big Dougie Gilmore fan growing up, and then I, luckily enough, got to watch some great highlight clips of him, and he was a little guy at the time and was just a little buzzsaw out there that really kind of annoyed people out there. And from that moment on, I wanted to wear 93, and obviously that number's retired in Toronto for great reasons. And as soon as I came back to a new team, I was talking to Kelly on Friday night, Friday night I think it was, and he kind of gave me the call of what number I want to wear, and I said 93, and I think he had a pretty good understanding of me going back there before I even said it. So I'm very happy to be back going to it, and hopefully it brings great success.
Take a last call questions for Nick.
Well, Mitch, I guess it's full circle since this is the second team you've been on that are the Knights. You know, how has this kind of felt like destiny for you almost to be in the seat you're in right now?
Yeah, it's a full circle moment for sure. It's a really cool feeling to, obviously it's the Vegas Golden Knights, but to be called the Knight again, something I took with great passion when I was in London, and something I take great passion with being here in Vegas. And very much looking forward to the start of the season and getting going here and getting around the guys and, just really finding our way to how we can help this team win hockey games.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.